All right, everybody, today's video, we've got the new QA1 upper and lower control arms for the e-body Mopars. Now, I want to start by saying I'm not sponsored by the QA1 for this video. I went ahead and ordered these full retail from Speedway Motors. So today's video, we're going to go over the details, my initial thoughts of these control arms, as well as why I chose to order these instead of the other options that are currently on the market. So for starters, we got the upper control arms here, and these are, it's QA1. They make amazing products, and what I really like about these is the extra gusseting and the welds it's hard to get a real good idea of what the details of these welds are because of the coating that's on them, but the initial look, based on what I can see, they are really high construction, and I can't wait to get these installed in the car. So they do come complete, as you see here. They've got the bushings installed with Zerk fittings so you can grease them, as well as the ball joint already installed. Now, for years and years and years, I've been involved with the Mopar community, and I've had this Challenger for almost 25 years now as of making this video. And when I first got involved in the Mopar community, it was early on in tubular control arms, and I kept seeing a lot of horror stories of failed welds and control arms failing. Well, here we are 20 years later, and the quality control has definitely gotten a lot better, and QA1 has always made a good high quality product, and so these units I'm definitely really excited about. I've seen these in person before when they unveiled them at the SEMA show a couple years ago, and so I have no doubt that these are going to be a great unit. They're going to last a lot of years in the car. They claim that they're a lot stronger than the factory stamped steel units. I definitely believe that, and I'm sure that we're not going to have any weld issues with these. Of course, time will tell. So the reason I decided to go ahead and change out the upper control arms in the first place was because I wanted to correct some of the geometry issues with the stock suspension. And so with these upper control arms from QA1, not only do they claim to be a lot stronger than the factory units, but you also get an additional 3 degrees of caster, which is going to help with your drivability and how the car feels on the road. Now, for the reason why I went with the QA1 over the other brands, I trust QA1 as a brand. They've been around for a really long time and make historically really great products. There are a variety of others on the market which provide different pros and cons. SPC has 2 variations of upper control arms out there. Their first generation I really like because it's you got a lot of adjustability, so you can get a lot of adjustment into your settings for your caster and camber. The problem I have with the SPC units is I've got an engineering background. I've been an engineer for 15 years now in industry, and I don't like all of the jointed locations. It's just asking for potential failure points, and having the adjustability is really nice, but it also adds a lot of other failure modes, having all the different jointed parts in the upper control arm. So for those reasons, I went ahead and stayed away from the SPC Gen 1s. They recently came out with a 2nd generation upper control arm, which does remove some of those jointed components because they have a cast end half of the upper control arm, which definitely is a lot better. It's an amazing product, but at the same time, I still don't feel comfortable with the amount of driving I plan on doing with this car to have jointed components for the upper control arms. So that's what's nice about the QA1 units, nice single piece design. All right, so the other big name in upper control arms for the e-body Mopars right now is Hochkiss. And they have 2 variations of their design, and the first one automatically gets eliminated because in order to make any adjustments to your settings for your suspension, you have to actually remove the upper control arm from the car, and that just takes way too much time. Now, granted, you shouldn't be adjusting the suspension settings in your car on a very frequent basis, but at the same time, when you do go and make those adjustments, you don't want to have to take the upper control arm out of the car to adjust it, put it back in, check your settings, take it back out, all that. It's just too much hassle. Now, they did correct that on their 2nd generation upper control arms, so you can adjust the settings in the car, which is very nice, but they still have a problem that I don't care for, and that's the fact that at these mounting locations, instead of having a rubber or polyurethane or even a Delrin bushing, they are using Heim joints to mount them to the car, and that just it's just too much stress in my mind to go ahead and have for your upper control arms is to have Heim joints for your mounting point. And I've seen over the years so many Heim joints fail when people use them for control arms, and it's just not something I want to risk on this car. I'd much rather have something like these urethane bushings. So I haven't seen recently too many failures reported online with the Hochkiss, with the Heim joints failing on theirs. But for me, it's not something I want to risk, and so I didn't go with the Hochkiss. I went with the QA1s. Now, there is definitely a price difference between all of these. I mean, the SPCs and the Hochkiss do cost more than the QA1 units, but for what I'm driving on this car and using it for, the QA1s are going to be more than adequate. All right, now when it comes to the lower control arms, there are definitely less options on the market compared to the upper control arms. A lot of people, what they do is just take the stock lower control arms and use boxing plates and box them in to stiffen them up. And there are a variety of companies out there that make those plates, then you just weld them in and you have a much stiffer lower control arm. Now, when QA1 came out with their upper control arms, they also came out with these lower control arms. Now, they look very different than the stock ones, and they claim to be a lot stiffer than the factory units. We're going to find out, of course, after we get these installed, take the car for a spin, but they do look like they have all the correct stock mounting locations. I mean, you've got the main pin that goes into the K-member, you've got your sway bar tabs, your strut arm mounting point, your shock mounting point, lower ball joint, all that looks the same. Now, they say that these are a direct bolt-in and are complete. They look like to be a direct bolt-in, but they are definitely not complete. If you know your Mopars, there seems to be something missing right here, and that is the torsion bar adjusting bolt. So I had a feeling those weren't going to come with it, so I went ahead and ordered those separately. QA1 does sell brand new adjusters and bolts as well. You can always, of course, reuse them from your old lower control arms, but since I'm putting all this new components into the suspension, I might as well put new hardware as well. And so those are going to be showing up here soon, and we'll go ahead and get these all installed. All right, so those are my initial thoughts on these new QA1 control arms, as well as why I chose these over going with other manufacturers, because there are a lot of choices out there. Stay tuned for future videos. We're going to be going through, and the next one we're going to do an overview similar to this one of the Borgeson power steering box. That is a great unit that's become available for these cars to help this steering feel more responsive and more modern feeling compared to the 50+ year design that these cars are. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and go through all of the rest of the components that we're using on the suspension upgrade for this car, because I didn't just order a kit from one company or another. I went ahead and pieced out all the components that I wanted from different brands, and we're going to go ahead and give you an overview on why I chose each and every one of those components, followed by, of course, the actual installation, upgrading of all of the suspension for this car, front and rear. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get the car on the road and see what kind of difference it actually makes. So I hope you found this information useful. As always, if you did, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well, so that way you won't miss any of these future videos. And as always, guys, I will see you at the next video.